The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good evening class. Today we will be talking about IFT. First we'll go through some introduction of the IFT and the written test, some past patterns, and then we'll go through some of the verbal ability questions from IFT. So sorry for the delay on my part. So let us begin as quickly as possible. So Indian Institute of Foreign Trade was set up in 1963 by the Government of India. It was set up initially to professionalize the country's foreign trade and increase exports. But since deregulation uh, uh, that was in 1991, the focus has shifted from foreign trade to a general management perspective, and its flagship courses, MBA in International Business. So let's see a bit about MBA International Business. This is the foundational course for developing a competent cadre of business executives to meet countries' growing requirements for training personnel in fields of international management. And the important thing about this course is that the syllabi of MBA International Business compares favorably with the syllabi of some of the world's best international business schools. So the first stage of the entrance examination for IFT is a written test. The written test is of objective type, and areas like quantitative ability, logic and reasoning, and English, which are tested in other management exams as well, are tested here. General knowledge also forms the part of the written test, which is different from some of the other uh, management exams. So based on the marks of written test, a limited number of candidates will be invited for the second phase of selection process, which will comprise of group discussion, essay writing, and interview. So these are some of the important dates for IFT. Just go through them. And here are the common areas that have been seen in IFT exam. So 2013 pattern will consist of English comprehension, general knowledge and awareness, logical reasoning, and quantitative analysis. When they say English comprehension, it consists of two parts. One is RC and another other is verbal ability part. So if you look at past few years question papers, you will see that the number of questions that typically comes in an IFT exam are not same. They changed it. It was 150 at one time, then 122, and even 130 in 135 last time. And marks per question is also different. So a particular section may have different weightage per question than others. So this is the 2011 question paper. So you can see that marks per question for a general knowledge question is only zero point 0.5. For verbal ability and reading comprehension, it is 0.75, and for QA, DI, and LR, it's one each. So from that perspective, IFT gives a lot of weightage to QA, DI, and LR. So yeah, that was all the introduction part for the IFT. Now let's move to solving questions. So these are the questions from the last year's paper, 2012 question paper, which will be starting shortly. The time allotted for IFT paper is 120 minutes. That is 2 hours, and it also consists of negative marking. So whatever marks each question has, uh, it has also one third negative marking. There is no time allotted for sectional sections. You have to allot uh, the times yourself for each section you feel is appropriate. But the whole question paper has to done in one go. Okay, so here is the first question. Uh, you have to arrange. We have been given 5 sentences here, and we have to arrange these sentences to form a coherent paragraph. Okay, so a majority of the students are saying the answer is the fourth option, and it's correct. The answer is the fourth option. We can see if you look at the lines that we have, you can see that there are three sentences that are given in the question format. These questions seem to start the paragraph as it are interviewing or challenging the reader of the paragraph. So among three, what order they should have, it can be found in the fourth sentence. So in fourth sentence, the first part is about books. So sentence one should form first sentence. Then it talks about plays and movies. So sentence three forms the next part. Then about food that satisfies the hunger. So the fifth sentence which talks about pumpkin pie should come next. So 1, 3, 5 come in that order. And uh, and if you go through rest of the sentence, second and fourth sentence, then it is quite evident that the second sentence should follow the questions. So now notice the examples I have used, and I have not spoken of the books that grip you emotionally, of plays and movies that keep you on the edge of your seat in surprise, or of food that satisfies a ravenous hunger. So the correct order is 1, 3, 5, 2, and 4. here is the solution. Just go through it once. So moving to the next question. There's a similar question. We have five sentences. We have to arrange it in correct order. Okay, I'm really sorry. I was on mute this time. So if you look at it, the second option, the second sentence, ITC has learned invaluable lessons from finding creative local solutions on the ground to some of these apparently intractable problems. This is the introductory sentence here. Uh, then if you look at it, the third sentence, which elaborates on these solutions, and fourth and fifth sentences carried forward. Now between fourth and fifth sentence, you can see that the fourth sentence has a word also in it, which indicates that it has to come after fifth sentence. And Uh, the first sentence, all these help hasten download and optimize the farmer's usage of the internet within the available bandwidth. This is the conclusion part. So the correct answer is fourth option, which is 23541. Here is a solution. Just go through it once, then we'll move forward. So out of these four sentences that we have here, only one is grammatically correct, and you have to tell which one of them is. So let's discuss this question. First, let's look at option 2, which says it was gradually thought that throughout the world freedom and prosperity would spread and through an orderly process. So if you look at this part, the word gradually thought, so this seems incorrect, not incorrect exactly, but ineffective. So the thinking process, if you look at the complete meaning of the paragraph, then it should not be a thinking process that is very gradual, but the uh, spreading of peace, freedom, and prosperity that should be gradual in nature. So uh, it would make more sense if you say that freedom and prosperity would spread gradually. Now between third and fourth sentence, fourth option, if you see the first sentence, the first line of the sentence, uh, in both third and fourth option, they convey the same meaning. So if we say through an orderly process, it was thought that freedom, or if we say it was thought that through an order, it was thought through an orderly process that freedom and prosperity would spread gradually. Basically, both these sentences mean the same thing. And now compare this with the first sentence, where it says it was thought that freedom and prosperity would spread gradually throughout the world through an orderly process. Now here you have to make a decision that if the thought process has to be in an orderly process, that means uh, a process a process that is given in a predetermined order. So there would be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and so on. So if the orderly process has to be the thought process has to be orderly, or the process of a process of spreading of freedom and prosperity has to be orderly. So from my point of view, I think that uh, the spread of freedom and prosperity has to be in an orderly manner rather than the thinking of it. So I think that first option is the correct answer. And here is the solution to it. Okay, there seems to be some doubts in this question. I'll try to address them. Uh, One doubt uh, is was hoped. I cannot find this phrase anywhere. In all the four sentences, it was hoped, and I think it is the correct usage. Okay, and yes, there seems to be a genuine uh, doubt here. In the first sentence, uh, instead of world, it is written word. Actually, I think that that would have been a typing error here. So yes, there is a typing error in sentence 1 where it says gradually throughout the word. It should have been world. Yes, this is last year's IFT paper. And moving to the next question. So from the choices provided, we have to identify the pair of words with a relationship similar to the given word pair. So the given word pair to us is indefatigable and inveterate, and given options are tireless, tired, tired habitual, uh, tireless habitual, or impoverished habitual. Okay, so let's discuss this question. We have indefatigable and inveterate. So indefatigable is it means someone who is very tireless and persistently working towards something. And inveterate means a long a long acquired habit that has been in habit for a very long time, and it is unlikely to change in future. So from the given options, we have that the closest meanings to them are tireless and habitual, which can be found in the third option. Therefore, third option is the correct answer. Okay, so moving to the next question. Similar question. The given pair that we have here is misanthrope and humanity. O- Okay, so given a given pair we have here is misanthrope and humanity, and the options are chauvinist patriot, misogynist woman, agnostic god, and witch magic. Okay, so let's have a look at this question. Misanthrope is someone who hates humanity. So in the given options, we have to find uh, we have to find where the first word defines hatred for the second word. So a chauvinist is an extreme version of a patriot. So this cannot be the answer. A misogynist is someone who hates women. So this seems a likely answer. So an agnostic is someone who does not who does not know if God exists or not, and does not take any side. So agnostic would not be someone who hates God. Which is a woman who practices magic. So again, no connection of the kind that we saw in the given pair. So misogynist and woman uh, seem to be the likely answer for the given question. Here is the solution for the question. So moving to the next question. So we have a set of words on the right side and their meanings on the left. Set of words on the left side and their meanings on the right side. You have to match the words to their correct meaning. Okay, so let's discuss this question. Uh, so basically, arrogate means to ascribe or assign to something, and arraign means to bring to court of justice, to answer uh, any indictment. Chagrin means something that is marked by uh, embarrassment and or disappointment. A conscript is generally it's used with enrolling in army. For example, Israel has a conscript system where everyone is forced to do a particular service, that is army service, defense service basically. And vacillate means someone who is not very sure of let's say his decision, and is going to and fro about his decision. So from the given options that we have, we see that arrogate can be best matched with the with the first explanation, clench or seize without right. Arraign can be linked with the fifth option, fifth sentence, that is bring before court of law. Chagrin means is related to embarrassment due to disappointment, and conscript is goes with the third, to enroll for compulsory service, and vacillate means to uh, swing back and forth. So option 2 would be the correct answer for this question. Here is the solution for that question. Basically the meanings of all the words that we had. So here is the next question. The words that we have here: ephemeral, ethereal, ap apparative, candor, and chimera. Okay, so let's discuss this question. Ephemeral means something that is very short-lived. It is basically, the word is basically related to uh, life uh, life of an insect, which is considered very small. So something that is fleeting or short-lived will be called ephemeral. That connects to the second meaning. Ethereal means ether was a word used earlier for heaven. So ethereal means something that is spiritual or not of this world, connected to the fifth explanation. Aperitif is a drink that is taken uh, before a meal uh, to stimulate the appetite. So it is connected to the first explanation, an alcoholic drink taken before a meal. Candor is a quality related with forthrightness or frankness. So the third explanation is related to candor. And chimera is a dream world or basically an illusion. So fourth explanation goes with chimera. So the fourth option, which gives the explanation in these order, is the answer for this question. Here is the explanation to it. So moving to the next question. So identify the sentence in which is grammatically incorrect. Sorry, grammatically correct. So out of these four options, you have to find the option which is grammatically correct. We have to find the sentence that is correct. Okay, so let's discuss this question. The first sentence says, each of the six boys in the class has finished their task. This sentence is grammatically incorrect because with each we always use singular, so it should have been his task. Each of the six boys in the class has finished his task. The second option, one must finish his task in time, is also incorrect because when they say the when we use the sentence with one must finish his task, instead of his it should be one's. So the sentence is one must finish one's task in time. The third sentence, either Ram or Sham will give their book. This one is also incorrect because we have Ram or Sham. So uh, so instead of their, it should have been his, the singular form of word. And the fourth option, each of the girls must carry her own bag. This is correct as with each we use a singular form. So her is correct. Here is the solution for the question. So moving to the next question. So again we have to identify the sentence which is grammatically correct. Okay, so let's discuss this question. Let's begin with the fourth option. It says I have written both to their branch office and head office. Uh, the usage here is incorrect because uh, both should come after to. So both comes just before the noun. So the correct usage have been I have written to both their branch office and the head office. Uh, o- Option 3, when you come to see me, we will go to Mumbai. So again, this option is also incorrect because uh, the word will is incorrectly put here. The correct usage will be when you come to see me, we will go to Mumbai. The second option, before the rain would stop, they would have reached home. So the correct sentence here would have been before the rain stops or before the rain stopped, they would have reached home. So the word would in the first part of the sentence here is incorrectly put. The first sentence, the reason why he missed his classes was that he overslept. This sentence is grammatically correct, and hence this for the first option is the answer to the question. Here is the solution for the question. So coming to the next question. This is a filling the blanks question. Fill all the 5 blanks with appropriate words. Okay, so let's discuss this question. The first part, there is so much love dash the two of them. So when we are talking about two of them, then it is always between, not among. So between is the answer for the first part. I have not seen Aditi dash Friday. So uh, the more between from and since makes more sense in this sentence. That I started my exam preparation from January. The three sisters did not look for the three sisters did not look for new friend as they were quite happy playing among themselves. Uh, while playing, the three sisters are playing among themselves. I have not seen Mohan dash 6 months. So for here it would be I have not seen I have not seen Mohan for 6 months. So fourth option is the correct answer, as most of you have given the right answer. So here is the solution. Okay, so the next question. This is also filling the blanks, but the words that have to be filled here are not single words. They are a collection of words. Okay, so let's discuss this question. First, we need to differentiate between by virtue of and by dint of. By dint of means because of something that happens because of efforts of someone, and by virtue of means that something that is there because of the being of it itself. So if you look at the first sentence, he succeeded dash perseverance and sheer hard work. So we have the option of by virtue of or by dint of. So by dint of would make more sense because by dint of is related to efforts, and perseverance and sheer hard work are efforts here. On contrast, if we use by virtue of, so by virtue of assumes that perseverance and sheer hard work are also are constant here. They are always present. So it would make more sense to use by dint of. And look at the second sentence. If we use here by the dint of the power vested in me, so it does not make much sense because we do not talk about efforts of power. On contrast, if we use by virtue of power, so it indicates that something happens because something is already present there. The powers are already present. It is just vested in me. So by the virtue of the power vested in me, I hereby declare these premises sealed. The third sentence, uh, dash his illness, he could not finish his work in time. So in consequence of his illness, he could not finish his work in time. The fourth dash need, please contact me at the emergency number indicated. So it would be in case of need. please contact me at the emergency number indicated. So the second option is the answer for this question. Here is the solution. See, yeah, by the dint of means that something is happening because of efforts of someone or something else. Whereas if we say by the virtue of indicates that something that something that is there uh, because of something that is already there. So, for example, in this question, the power the power that we are talking about is already there, so we use by virtue of with it. Whereas in the first sentence, where the effort like perseverance and hard work are there, so we use by the dint of. So, if you look at solution, the explanation of solution, both by the dint of and by virtue of means because of something, but because of something, why because of something differs in this case. So, it by dint of means because of something which is due to effort of something else. And if you look at by virtue of, it says that because of something which is due to something, so something that is already there. Let's move to the next question. So which of the following is a metaphor? One, he fought like a lion, or she's as cool as cucumber, or man proposes, God disposes, or he was a lion in the fight. Okay, so what is metaphor first? So metaphor is a figure of speech in which a term or phrase is applied to something to which it is not literally applicable. So the fourth option here, which says that he was a lion in the fight. So it means that it indicates the ferocity of lion, his ferocity in the fight like that of a lion, but does not literally mean that he was a lion. So this is a metaphor here. If we look at the first and second sentence, he fought like a lion or she's as cool as a cucumber. These are not metaphors, these are similes. And fourth is a normal sentence. Sorry, and third is a normal sentence. So the fourth sentence here is only a metaphor. The first and second are similes. An irony is something that is um, that that indicates a difference between what it should be and what it really is. So if we say that uh, Manmohan Singh is a reformist, and then we say that it is an irony that his government has not taken any significant reforms in last 5 years. So there is a disconnect between what it should have been and what it should be. Whereas if we use metaphor, uh, we use it in an exaggerated manner. For example, the sentence that we used here was he was a lion in the fight. So it means to indicate in the same direction as the sentence is being talked about. So if we a simple way to look at the difference between an irony and a metaphor. A metaphor reinforces what is being said about someone, whereas an irony weakens that position. So which of the following is an oxymoron? She accepted it as the kind cruelty of a surgeon's knife. The camel is the ship of the desert. Art lies in concealing art. Or death lays his icy hands on kings. Okay, and for those who are not familiar with the term oxymoron, oxymoron is a figure of speech in which contradictory terms are used one after another. For example, an example would be a sad smile. So that would be an oxymoron. So yes, most of you have got it right. It is option one. She accepted it as kind cruelty of a surgeon's knife, where kind cruelty is the oxymoron here. So kind and cruelty have contradictory meanings and are used in conjunction. So here is the solution. So moving to the next question. So from the given options, you have to select the correct antonym of the given word. Okay, we have a doubt from the explanation of the last question. And what is the meaning of fiend and Angelica? Fiend is someone uh, who is an enemy of you, and Angelica would be someone who is friendly towards you. And so let's move to this question. Prosaic. So prosaic means something that is very dull in nature. From the given options, if we look at it, uh, predisposed means inclined towards one attitude, one decision. Uh, and mundane means again commonplace. And so if you look at it, a prosaic, which means dull, its antonym would be interesting. So option 3 is the answer. So again, we have to pick the correct antonym. The word which we have been given here is puerile, and the options are adult, servile, peaceful, and ambiguous. Okay, so let's discuss this question. Puerile basically means childish, someone who is childish or juvenile, and servile means someone who is very who is into slavery. So a servile creature means someone who is committed to slavery and has been and has acted like a slave all his life. Ambiguous means unclear. So between these four options, the closest antonym of puerile is adult. So option 1 is the correct answer to this question. Here is the solution to it. Okay, so we have four options here of the single word, and only one option has the correct spelling of the word. So you have to tell me which one of them it is. Okay, so the correct answer here is the first option, exorbitant, and here is the solution to it. So now moving to the next question. Again, we have to pick a word with the correct spelling. Okay, so the correct option for this question is option 2, acquiescence. Here is the solution to it. Okay, so moving to the next question. Out of the given 4 words, we have to pick the odd word out. So the words here, perilous, precarious, and hazardous, all mean exactly the same. That is dangerous. Whereas copious means abundant. So copious here is the odd word out. So moving to the next question. This is also today's last question. So we have to again find the odd word out between propitiate, appreciate, appease, and conciliate. So if you look at the words here, propitiate, appease, or conciliate, which means to pacify or satisfy the other party, whereas the word appreciate means to value or praise something. So appreciate here is the odd word out, and here is the solution for this question. So this was all for today's class. I am showing you the previous question on request 2. So this is the previous question. Here the words perilous, precarious and hazardous means dangerous. So they are all synonyms. Whereas the word copious here is means abundant. So this is the odd word out. So Vishwanath is asking for the time allotment slide. I is this the slide you were looking for, Vishwanath? So this is just a representative format. IFT is known to change the format every year. So number of questions or the marks per question in different sets change from year to year. So take this only as an indicative format. Ankur, I'm not exactly sure about the cutoff. Uh, so I cannot comment on it. Okay, so I'm just going through other slides from the beginning as well. So yeah, so I'm going through the previous slides once again, so you can see to it.